On today's show, we talk Urban Meyer. We'll also talk the Travers Stakes, and we'll have a special guest with us talking fantasy football from the NFL. Stay with us.
And now, from Louisville, Kentucky, the horse capital of the world and sports junkies' finest, giving you wagering advice and sports analysis. It's On the Switch with your host, Gino G.
Welcome back, everybody, to On the Switch Show. I'm your host, as always, Gino G. Today, we have a special guest who will be our NFL expert for the entire NFL season, and that's Zack. What up, Zack?
Hey, what's going on?
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but we're going to touch on a few things here. We'll talk about Urban Meyer and the Travers Stakes coming up, and then we'll get to your expertise in the NFL.
Sure.
But first, Urban Meyer, okay, he gets a 3-game suspension. How do you feel about that?
I'll tell you, I think with everything that the evidence that showed, probably any other university, he's probably getting fired.
So on a previous podcast, we talked about the relationship or the correlation with Rick Pitino and U of L, right? So I thought and said here on the show that Rick Pitino, what he did, which was completely wrong, okay, completely wrong.
Absolutely.
Was not worse than what Urban Meyer has done. So this was something that was posted on Twitter by Brett McMurphy. Listen to this. It says the investigation report says, and I quote, "We learned Coach Meyer has sometimes had significant memory issues in other situations where he had prior extensive knowledge of events. He has also periodically taken medicine that can negatively impair his memory, concentration, and focus." How in the world, as a university, can you say, this is okay? Is it all about money? Is it all about W's? Is that what it's about? That's the way, as an outsider, that's the way it looks. I can't imagine a university saying, yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like, he forgot, you know?
I see where you're coming from, honestly. I'm from the Cleveland area myself, so I'm a big Ohio State fan.
Oh, here we go.
No. I feel the same way, honestly. I don't see where the university can sit here and honestly say that this guy's job's safe after all the insurmountable evidence that they had of him trying to hide text messages, asking opinions on how to do things. You know, there was evidence there, and then all of a sudden I don't remember.
Well, I mean, you know, he also had mental issues, or how did they put it when he left Florida? He couldn't handle the stress. Could you imagine? Can you imagine what he feels right now? I swear, and I posted this on Twitter. I said, hey, listen, I can't wait for Ohio State to go 9-3. Then they go to a bowl game, lose by 2 touchdowns, and then Urban Meyer has a presser and says, all right, guys, I just got to be honest. I can't do it anymore.
Well, 9-3, I think that's a little steep, quite honest with you. The first 3 weeks, we see Oregon State, Rutgers, and then TCU week 3. TCU's going to push us, I'm sure. But I don't see 3 losses just because of what's going on. I think Urban comes back and takes his job over just as it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think without Urban Meyer, I think the team, obviously, it doesn't change, right? You still have the same amount of talent.
Right, you have the same talent.
Right, you have the same players. You know, you just lose that leader. And I think a lot of times in, for instance, like Louisville situation with college basketball, you lose your leader and you kind of lose that extra drive, or that button that Rick Pitino could press, just like Urban Meyer. Like, he presses that button, all of a sudden another gear, you know. And
right.
I thought if perhaps Urban Meyer was suspended for an entire year, or perhaps that he lost his job, I think Ohio State could have been in big trouble this season. Now, with that being said, only 3 games. I agree with you. You're talking about Oregon State, who's going to be atrocious. Okay, they're going to be horrible. Rutgers is going to be better, but they're not going to be very good, and the game is at the shoe. When you go to Dallas and you play TCU, if you win by 5 touchdowns and 6 touchdowns the first 2 weeks, I think they could walk into Dallas thinking, oh, well, come on. I don't care if it's TCU or not. I don't think they lose, right? I think they have significant amount of talent over TCU, but that could be one of those games last game before Urban Meyer comes back. They've drubbed the first 2 opponents. I think they could easily walk in and kind of overlook TCU, and the game could be a whole lot closer than maybe what everybody thinks it should be.
Oh, no, I think we're really up for a test against TCU, especially without Urban Meyer. There's needs to be the experience there to be able to lead this team past a opponent like that. TCU's had a great program for the last however long, 10, 15 years, constantly up there in the top 25. So, yeah, they're going to push us a little bit, absolutely.
So here at On the Switch, we always talk about value, and value when it comes to now Ohio State. With only 3 games, you would have to still make them the prohibitive favorite in the Big Ten. Now, 3 games, it doesn't ruin anything when it comes to Big Ten play. You play Rutgers, but, I mean, let's be real.
Right.
Okay?
Right,
I mean,
right.
It's Rutgers. Okay? So you play one Big Ten game, so it doesn't really affect anything when it comes to the Big Ten. They have to be the prohibitive favorite. Now, when we also talk about value, we also talk about sunglasses here at On the Switch, right? Value when it comes to sunglasses is with Shady Rays. They offer a durable and perhaps the most significant plan when it comes to lifetime craftsmanship warranty for every pair of sunglasses. They also offer you a plan in which if perhaps you misplace, you lose, your sunglasses get stolen. Perhaps like you break them on accident. Shady Rays will replace those. They also, I'm not kidding you, and this is what's crazy. Shady Rays gives a 25% discount for military, both active and retired. On top of that, on top of all of this, for every single purchase at Shady Rays, they give 11 meals to fight hunger. This is a company that if perhaps you want a pair of sunglasses, you want to try something new, they have all the styles that you want. If you have a rigorous lifestyle, like outside all the time, you maybe have a grass mowing business, a construction business, something, you go hiking all the time. This is a pair of sunglasses that you're telling me if you break a pair of sunglasses, they're going to send you a pair back? The same pair? Like, are you serious? We always talk about value, and value is Shady Rays. Head over to shadyrays.com, use promo code SWITCH, and get an exclusive buy one, get one free offer. Now, back to Ohio State. I think the value when it comes to Ohio State in the Big Ten has to be them winning the Big Ten championship. Although, on our Big Ten episode, I talked about how I love Michigan. I love Shea Patterson. I love everything that they're doing. I love their defense. But I-O. So I don't want to say that I'm changing my mind because I'm not. I've actually personally already bet Michigan to win the Big Ten. But I think now with him only getting 3 games, Ohio State has to be the favorite.
They're
Not
definitely
just
the team to beat.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Both sides of the ball. Although I think, like I said, Michigan is going to be the best defensive team. They have the most talent altogether. Now, not to like literally go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Let's talk a little bit about horse racing. You ever bet the horses?
I'm not a big horse racing guy. Since I moved to Louisville a few years back, I've actually just started getting into horse racing a little bit. Definitely watched Derby and Belmont this year. Didn't catch the Preakness, but I know who to bet my money on those races at least.
Justify?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting about horse racing, and particularly this week, it's something called the Travers Stakes. The Travers Stakes is hosted in Saratoga Springs, New York at Saratoga Racecourse. Okay, it's probably the biggest 3-year-old race after the Triple Crown Trail that is a key race when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Classic, which is the richest North American horse race for fillies and mares, or fillies, mares, colts, any horse that wants to go, to the 1.25 mile race. The Travers is 1.25 mile. Okay, it is for 3-year-olds. And the morning line favorite is Good Magic. Good Magic is an interesting horse just from the standpoint that this one hasn't run a bad race since the literally since the Derby. The Derby he runs second, a fantastic second. And although he ran 4th in the Preakness, he literally pushed Justify every single step of the way from the inside, which is impossible to do. Still was only beaten a length that day. Then comes back in the Haskell and just absolutely romps. Like, wins for fun. Good Magic's the 2-1 favorite. I think you have to use Good Magic because I do believe he's the best 3-year-old left. Although, We'll get to my top selection here in a minute, but I think another horse you need to take a look at is Gronkowski. Gronkowski is a horse. No, not Rob Gronkowski. Come on. I know you're getting excited. We're not talking about the New England Patriots yet, okay? I mean, calm your horses.
I've actually heard of that horse, actually.
Yeah, oh, you have? All right. Yeah. Well, so Gronkowski was a foreigner up until the Belmont Stakes. Then he goes off at 25-1 in the Belmont Stakes. Everybody says no fucking chance. I mean, no way. This horse has no chance. No way. Runs second and by far was one of the most impressive seconds like you'll ever see. He was so far back early. Makes a huge run around the turn and just was gaining ground on Justify, but just was not being Justify that day. Now comes back into this spot. He's bred to go this distance. Again, like I said, he had an insane run in the Belmont. He's now going to be a fresh horse. Distance, as far as breeding wise, the distance is not going to be an issue whatsoever. I think there's enough speed, and this is where, as far as from a betting standpoint, it's going to be interesting because I'm not necessarily sure who's going to go to the lead, but there are a lot of horses that like the lead. So I think the pace is going to be honest. So I think he's going to have something to run at. For the record, he ran down a 48 half mile in the Belmont. So that wasn't super quick. So I think Gronkowski has a huge, huge chance in the Travers Stakes. Although Saratoga over the past week or so has been speed heavy. Horses with speed have been super, super tough to beat. With that being said, you have to look at Mendelssohn. Okay, Mendelssohn is a horse that won the UAE Derby by $1 billion. It comes into the Derby and everybody's like, well, Mendelssohn, he looks great. He looks great. You know, Mendelssohn this, Mendelssohn that. Mendelssohn on the backside in workouts and at the barn and stuff, he's a very talkative horse. I know it sounds crazy to say, but Mendelssohn is very chattery. When he was in Kentucky, he didn't say a word. There was a lot of talk about Mendelssohn maybe acting a little bit different, didn't really like the track, didn't love the track. And then, of course, when the rain absolutely came down Kentucky Derby Day, when he stepped onto the track, he freaked out. Did not like the wet surface whatsoever. He's going to get a dry surface today. He ran in the Dwyer. Literally if he wasn't leading, he was within a nose or a head of the lead of a 45-second half mile, which is blistering fast. Of course, he faded. Still finished third, but beaten $1 billion lengths by Friends and Fire. Now comes back to this spot. So here's an angle as a handicapper that I like. You have speed and then faded. Now comes back and goes longer. So Ryan Moore, who's a jockey that is from across the pond, flies back over just to ride him today. I think Mendelssohn, who will go to the lead, in my opinion, has a big chance at 12-1 on the morning line, has a big chance to do something extremely special and just surprise everybody. The last horse that I want to talk about, or horses I want to talk about, I guess we can touch on Tenfold first. Tenfold is towards the outside, the 10 hole, which is crazy. I know, Tenfold in the 10 hole. The best races that Tenfold has had, Tenfold has broke towards the lead, or has been on the lead, and has finished in the top 2 when that happens. I think there is a chance, unless if Mendelssohn just goes bananas on the front end, which, by the way, would set up for Gronkowski. Unless if he goes bananas on the front end, I think Tenfold and Ricardo Santana, who's an aggressive jockey, is going to go towards the front. If that's the case and they settle in, Tenfold has a big chance to run in the money. I don't know at 8-1 if this is a horse that I would play on top, but if you're playing pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, things like that, I think Tenfold could be a use if you buy the fact that Mendelssohn's not going to go out there and go crazy on the front end. The last horse that I want to talk about is D. Wayne Lucas's Bravazzo. Okay, Saratoga is D. Wayne Lucas's home away from home. D. Wayne Lucas calls Louisville home, but he loves Saratoga. I love the 5 furlong drill, 1 minute flat and prep for this effort. I love the fact this horse is coming second off the layoff, running in the Haskell. Speaking of the Haskell, although Good Magic looked great in the Haskell and beat that field handily, Bravazzo did run second. So another improve off that effort. I think Bravazzo is a horse that you need to use in exotics. You play trifectas, superfectas. This is a horse I think that is going to be there. I did not like Bravazzo in the Belmont. And I told everybody here at On the Switch, Bravazzo is a big fade for me Belmont Day. Haskell, I wasn't crazy about, but then you watch the effort and you're like, wow, this horse is, I mean, if it goes to the Travers, it probably has a big chance. Now it shows up in the Travers. I like Bravazzo to at least run in the money, especially if you're playing, again, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s. I think you should use, just in case of good magic, Mendelssohn, tenfold if you like that horse. If these horses don't fire, or if Bravazzo just runs out of his shoes, which, by the way, he did that in the Haskell, runs second in the Haskell and only ran with 3 shoes. 3 shoes. So Bravazzo, I think, has a big chance today. Definitely will run in the money. Perhaps if others don't fire, Bravazzo could win. Now, to your bread and butter, the NFL. Are you excited about the season?
Absolutely. I can't wait. This is my favorite time of year.
So, I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. You're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, when talking about fantasy football, I know Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, when you attack a draft, if this is your first time drafting, do you take the best player available? Do you have a certain criteria that you use? Is there a strategy that you go by?
Well, I play in PPR leagues. I've played in a 12-man PPR league for the last 12 years. This year, if I'm a first-time draft guy, I'm playing fantasy football, I'm extremely new, trying to get a little wet behind the ears, I'm looking probably to take best player available, just on the fact that don't really know how the scoring is going. But experienced guy, I see a lot of running backs going in the first round. You know, there's a lot of workhorses that are out there, and I think they're going to take their advantage to getting those guys early.
Okay, so if perhaps you had the very first pick,
sure,
you taking Gurley or are you taking your boy Bell?
Now this is where it gets a little interesting. Gurley had a great year last year, undisputable. 1,900 total yards. He's probably going to repeat numbers. Shouldn't see too much of a dip off when it comes to Todd Gurley. But the argument I make about Le'Veon Bell is this is probably his last year as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I'm really sad to say that. But at the same time, he's playing for that big offseason money, the money he's been trying to get the last 2 seasons. I don't see Pittsburgh trying to tag him a third time. He's going to make $14+ million on the franchise tag this year. He's playing for that offseason contract. Teams, Colts, Jets, Cleveland, teams like that are going to be out to get him who pay players. So I think he goes above and beyond. The only thing that worries me is last year he held out all the way till week 1. Play Cleveland. Cleveland's got a pretty tough run defense. We're doing the same thing again this year.
They do.
I would think they finished top 5, actually, stopping the run.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they did.
So, go ahead.
Well, my only counter argument is the fact that I think Le'Veon Bell, and like I said, I'm not a Steelers fan, but I think Bell is more of a head case from the standpoint of, I think maybe his head is as big as this world, and he thinks, well, just look at my stats. It's not about last year, talking about this year. Look at my stats. You want to tell me you can't pay me maximum money? I think, although typically and historically, guys tend to play better in contract years because they want that big money.
Sure.
I think Bell, because he is such a, for a lack of a better way to say it, just a selfish person.
Sure.
I think there is a chance, a small chance, that Le'Veon Bell does not live up to the hype because he thinks he's better than either what he's getting paid or, look what I've done over the last 5 years, not just last year. So, although I would take Gurley, number 1, I don't like Goff at all. But it's, whatever.
I think that's a dart throw. It's kind of a dart throw with Goff for sure. They gave him Brandon Cooks. They traded for him, extended him immediately.
Right.
You got Cooper Kupp there. You got Robert Woods, who's been pretty efficient for them.
Right.
There's options there. Of course, Todd Gurley's in the backfield, so he's in a situation set up to where he can succeed.
And that's where I think he is the guy. When you name all those names, now Brandon Cooks is definitely an interesting wide receiver that's added to this group because I think it gives them another dynamic. I mean, as you said, Kupp, good, Woods, reliable, but nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, nothing like over the top. Now, Brandon Cooks gives you that option. So there's a chance that Gurley is hurt maybe a little bit or slightly because Cooks is there. I just don't know if I trust Goff enough to get him the ball.
And I can understand that him being his third year. He had a decent season last year, and actually he had an exceptional season last year throwing the ball. He's really getting it done. Rams 13-3. Obviously, they fell short.
Right.
But I think that's going to get better, as the players mature. Cooper Kupp is a guy who I have on my fantasy radar this year.
I love Kupp.
Absolutely. I think he's going to turn into more of the possession receiver in Los Angeles.
Does he not remind you of like Thielen at Minnesota?
Sure.
Sure. The guy that for a fact you throw it his way, he's catching it 100%.
It's funny. Last year, ADP for Thielen was going in the 10th round. Someone in my home league actually drafted him in the 5th round.
Good pick.
We're right now. Of course, now. We could all got him in the 10th round. All these guys are like, I remember Adam Thielen from the season before, coming in, get 18, 20 points here and there.
Right.
Of course. 5th round, and they made him look like a genius.
Yeah, exactly. He obviously knew something you didn't.
ADP, he's going second, late second, early third this year. You're paying for him.
And speaking of wide receivers, how many do you think go in the first round?
Really, I have the number at 3.
3. So you have Antonio Brown.
Absolutely.
You have, I guess, DeAndre Hopkins.
It's more than I guess.
Well, yeah,
he's absolutely. ADP has him 106, 107 right now. Full point PPR. Hopkins is a guy that's shown he can get it done without the quarterback.
100%.
Tom Savage.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Still catches 80 balls.
Right.
He's
a guy I can see catching 100 passes this year.
As long as Deshaun Watson stays healthy, you're talking about that offense. Insane.
Oh, yeah. And Deshaun Watson's someone that we're going to talk about here a little later.
I mean, you're talking about Will Fuller as well.
If
he didn't get hurt, healthy. Yeah, if he didn't get hurt. I mean, you're talking about DeAndre Hopkins. And I think if perhaps everybody stays healthy, Lamar Miller is going to get more chances than I think people give him credit for, although he seems like
he's a little bland.
Well, and
he's a little bland.
It's like Frank Gore last year.
Right.
Everybody's like, I mean, whatever. And look at Frank Gore's numbers, right? He just puts it out. Nothing crazy, right? And
Frank Gore is also 5th all-time NFL rushing list.
True.
And he's 35 years old, and he's still producing at an okay level. He's 30's father time.
Right. Well,
running back position, you've seen these guys retiring 32, 33 years old and earlier than that.
Well, and if not getting hurt all the time. Adrian Peterson. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was heading towards every record in every book of all time. And now, I don't know when he ever gets the ball. Now he's with Washington. And I just don't know how often he's going to see the field, Well,
with Darius Geis out,
I think it's the only reason why he got picked up.
Well, yeah, he's going to sit behind Robert Kelly.
Yeah.
For probably a good amount of the season, maybe. Robert Kelly didn't really show too much last year, but then he got hurt, and then it was Samaje Perine, and then, Chris Thompson's doing his thing, catching balls, and then sometimes taking them out of the backfield. So there's a lot of wonder there. Definitely committee over there in Washington.
For sure. And you just mentioned injuries.
Sure.
There are tons of guys coming back from injuries this season.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And we just touched on it. Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, just a cut.
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson. You're talking about David Johnson, right? He was out the entire season last season.
Possible top 5 pick.
Possibly. And in a lot of ADPs, you're talking about 103.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
You're seeing a lot. Bell, Gurley, interchangeable at 1 and 2.
Right.
3, you're looking at 3 and 4, Zeke and David Johnson. David Johnson and Zeke are going before Antonio Brown in most
crazy
PPR leagues.
Crazy.
In the last 5 years, Antonio Brown has averaged 116 catches per year.
It's insane.
116 catches, and this is points per reception.
Well,
this is the basis of why we're playing this.
You're talking about over the past couple of seasons, it was Antonio Brown and somebody else as the number 1 pick in every fantasy draft.
Oh, sure.
And typically, there was a couple of seasons where it was Le'Veon Bell or Antonio Brown, and they're the same team.
Right. Well, when Le'Veon Bell has 85 receptions last year as a running back, that's wide receiver 1 numbers coming from a running back.
Right.
His yardage wasn't that, superb, but for a running back, 600-700 yards.
Well, you're talking about in full point PPR.
Yes.
1 point per reception. When you get 85 receptions, you're talking about over a 16-week span of time. You're talking about 5 extra points just from the standpoint, per week. 5 extra points just getting a reception. So you're talking about guys like Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Todd Gurley. These are guys that catch the ball out of the backfield. So that's why they are so significantly higher rated, although it is beyond me. It is crazy that I would select Ezekiel Elliott before Antonio Brown, but a lot of people are going that route.
Right, because I feel like this year, like I said before, a lot of people are going to try and get that workhorse running back. If you didn't know, last year we actually saw a dip in total fantasy football points for receivers across the board.
Right.
It was an odd year. We're in a passing league. And overall, I think the differential was 200 points among wide receiver 1. So you're telling me that there's a extra Julio Jones not scoring points?
Right.
So that's where the trend's going.
Right. Well, and I think you even see it in the college game. It goes down. You see the use of running backs in more than one way, and that's why I think guys like Alvin Kamara, who catch the ball out of the backfield, they're smallish guys with speed. Almost like in years prior, you're talking about like Darren Sproles with like Philly. Like those kind of guys, they are catching the ball. But now you get guys that are 6'3" or 6'2" and now weigh 240 that are catching the ball out of the backfield now.
Right.
And it's just, that's, like you said, that's the trend in which it's going. And I think when it comes to PPR, a running back like that is so significant to have if you have one of those first picks to get one of these guys. Although there is risk with running backs getting hurt, we've seen this over the past couple of seasons, they score so many points on a weekly basis that it's hard to not select them over the first couple of picks.
Right. Absolutely.
So we touched on injuries, right? I wanted to mention a couple of other ones that are interesting to me. What do you do with Andrew Luck?
Oh, man. 2 seasons. Throwing shoulder.
Because I think it goes all the way down the line. You're talking about T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. Hilton is one of the best receivers in the league, but he needs a guy to throw him the ball. Jacoby Brissett is not that guy.
No, he's not.
So with Andrew Luck, you're talking about I believe it was 2 seasons with Andrew Luck. He had 110 receptions in both seasons. Okay. With Jacoby Brissett, I had him on my team. Okay. I had T.Y. Hilton on my team. And my God, was it bad. You're talking about 4 weeks where he was 200 plus. Okay. This is a guy that really needs Andrew Luck to be healthy. And I think if perhaps Andrew Luck is healthy and plays 16 weeks, okay, I think T.Y. Hilton is a guy that could be super value because his ADP has dropped because of last season.
Right.
So, Andrew Luck, do you buy it? Will he play 16 weeks, or are you off the Indy train?
Well, I'll say one thing. Andrew Luck got sacked in a preseason game just the other day, and his first comment was, "I'm so glad that when I got tackled and landed on my shoulder, it didn't hurt."
Well, that's obviously good news.
From a guy that 2 seasons ago, he couldn't lift his arm over his head.
Right.
Still out there slinging the ball around, trying to do what he can. And then I think the talent's still there.
For sure.
It's more about, has Indianapolis improved its line enough to keep him upright? Because I think if Andrew Luck is upright, I'm sure there's going to be rust.
Oh,
absolutely.
I think
you don't play for 2 years of doing anything, right, and you just go right back into it. There's going to be rust there.
For sure. But
I think as the season progresses, you're going to start seeing Andrew Luck really start coming back into his groove. And yes, T.Y. Hilton needs that for him to be successful. And really, who else do you have in Indianapolis? You have Jack Doyle. You have Eric Ebron.
Yeah, I mean,
Jack Doyle's not a bad tight end.
No. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Right.
He's not a bad tight end.
Right.
Probably tight end 12, 13. Sure.
Yes.
But
Moncrief is gone.
Right.
That was like
down in
that was
Jacksonville now.
Right. That was a bailout for Luck so much of the time. I think perhaps Marlon Mack could catch the ball out of the backfield, and I think he could be a bailout for Luck. But again, as you said, I'm more concerned about the line as well moving forward for Indianapolis. I think it depends. 16 games will depend on the offensive line. If the offensive line can protect him at least at a NFL average rate,
right,
he'll play 16 games. And I think T.Y. Hilton will catch 90 or 100 balls.
Right.
Otherwise, could be a long season again for Indy. Now, how about the Super Bowl champions getting a quarterback back this year that is better than the quarterback that won them the Super Bowl?
I think Wentz picks up right where he left off.
I love Wentz.
Me too. I love
Wentz.
He's the third quarterback, most drafts going off the board, 6th, 7th round. I love Carson Wentz just because I think the consistency is just going to be there. And he was already on his way to an MVP award when he got hurt last year. And it's so unfortunate to see things happen like that. Last season was really special for him.
I agree, but how crazy is it? Who do you select? Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson if they play 16 games? Because both guys, you're talking about both guys setting records. They're on pace, both of them, to just crush records for a single season. And it's amazing to me that both of these guys come back, and I still think their ADP is lower than what they should be. Although, as you said, Carson Wentz is a little bit higher than maybe I expected, but still lower than what I think his value is.
Well, first 2 quarterbacks I'm generally seeing taken off the boards, Aaron Rodgers and, surprisingly, Deshaun Watson. Small sample size last year. He played extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean,
off the charts.
Yeah, really.
Better than we thought he would have performed in his rookie year by astronomical amounts.
100%.
Will he get back to that? It kind of remains to be seen to me. There was a lot of hype around him last year. Can he do it again? There's going to be that pressure. Houston was looking really good last year when things were clicking.
100%. And
Deshaun was working 4 or 5 touchdowns a game.
Yeah. Punching them out, and that's what's crazy about this season. You're talking about all these guys, and I have just a small list here, but we didn't even touch about like Greg Olsen, and Tyler Eifert. 2 tight ends that I think are serious tight end ones, especially Greg Olsen. I mean, Greg Olsen will catch 80 or 90 balls as long as he's on the field. If he's not on the field, obviously he's not catching balls.
Right.
Same with Tyler Eifert. 2 guys that tend to get hurt all the time. So we didn't touch about those. And I know you mentioned Allen Robinson, a guy that we both like.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I think perhaps one of the most non-talked about pickups this season is Cameron Meredith.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, you're talking about a guy in Cameron Meredith with Chicago that was insanely good. As a matter of fact, a guy that was in one of our leagues was going to pick Cameron Meredith in the 3rd round last year before, literally, the day before our draft. They had a preseason game, and that's when he, blew out. He was going to take him in the 3rd round and loved Cameron Meredith. Now he goes to New Orleans, and I think no one, almost in a way, if you ask 20 random people are like, Cameron Meredith's not with the Bears anymore?
Right.
He's
that
gotten
was kind of a move that was under the radar.
100%, yeah,
in the
for sure.
season.
For sure.
And I think people are forgetting about him and really underestimating the ceiling of Cameron Meredith. Last couple of seasons, Drew Brees has had Michael Thomas.
Right.
Didn't get Kamara till last year. Had Brandon Cooks, but lost him. Kind of the passing game was kind of in limbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last year they got this awesome rushing attack. Ingram, Alvin Kamara. They're able to protect Drew Brees a little bit more. He's getting up there in age, 39 years old.
Yep.
So adding that next pass catching option, 2 seasons ago, Cameron Meredith with a 1,000-yard receiver.
Right. You're talking about you have now 2 legitimate wide receiver ones, perhaps. I'm not saying that they're going to toss it all over the yard now, but you're talking about Cameron Meredith now being added to Michael Thomas, who's going to take all the double teams in the world. Now you have Cameron Meredith, a guy, like you said, 1,000-yard receiver. It's crazy to me that he's going where? Where's ADP?
ADP 12th, 13th round.
Are you kidding me? I mean,
not joking.
If you're down in the 12th or 13th round and you don't take Cameron Meredith and he's available to you, you're nuts. I mean, you're crazy.
There's a lot of upside when it comes to Cameron Meredith. He could give you wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 numbers just getting used to the offense down there.
For sure.
The targets are going to be there.
For sure.
Ted Ginn he's a long shot. He's a deep ball guy.
Right.
I see Cameron Meredith moving up into that number 2 spot. He can play inside in the slot. He can play outside. He can do a little bit of everything. He runs good routes. He's got good hands. Well, why not?
You were talking about in the past couple of seasons, I guess it was 3 seasons ago, Brees had Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy Graham was his guy. Jimmy Graham was the guy that when it came to the red zone, he was getting all the targets. And here comes Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas just goes bananas.
Right.
And then, like you said, you lose a couple of guys. You lose Willie Snead, who, got hurt and they didn't really know what to do, so you got rid of him. Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks was gone. Michael Thomas is kind of the only guy. And like you said, you got Alvin Kamara and Ingram, who just went crazy last season. But now you add Cameron Meredith. It just seems to me maybe this could be a rejuvenation, almost like Peyton Manning's second to last year, where he just set all sorts of records, right, at 40 years old. I think perhaps, like I said, when you have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, although Mark Ingram's going to miss the first couple of games, although you have these guys, it's likely, it's possible that Brees could just toss it all over the yard and pass for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns again.
He could, and I'll say why. The first 6 weeks, Mark Ingram is not going to be a factor.
Right.
4-game suspension. They have a week 5 bye.
Yep.
Week 6 is going to be the week. Okay, let's see what you get week 5. Week 6 is the bye.
Yep.
And then you're going to really see, okay, well, where are we going?
Yep.
I think, and this is just me personally speaking, I think Kamara may have a regression this year. They picked up Terrence West. Sean Payton says, we're not going to give him such a huge workload. We're going to spell him out with Terrence West. I don't buy into that. I really don't. Kamara's a better guy. They're going to be using him heavily, and I don't think he's ready for that type of workload yet as a young runner.
It's not only just the workload, but the production that he had with the touches that he had, I think is more important. I just don't know. It's like for me, and I know we could possibly disagree on this, but it's like Marvin Jones. I just don't think the amount of targets that he had, the amount of opportunities that he had, what he was able to produce out, just like Alvin Kamara and Marvin Jones. I think they're very similar. I just don't think that's repeatable. And so I agree with you. I think there is a regression. I don't know how much of a regression there might be.
I do think you did see their ceiling.
Yes.
Last year. Marvin Jones, you mentioned, had 13 touchdowns last year.
Right.
I think that's his ceiling.
Right.
Okay. So I see a regression as far as, Marvin Jones is concerned. I don't see him hitting double-digit touchdowns this year, just because you have new pieces in Detroit. You got the addition of LeGarrette Blount. You have rookie Kerryon Johnson.
Yep.
Two decent runners.
Kerryon can also catch the ball in the backfield too, which I think is almost like a Theo Riddick, kind of option for Kerryon. I like Kerryon as a rookie, and I'm glad you brought this up because rookies, I think this year, have a big chance to have a big effect when it comes to fantasy football. Not just at the quarterbacks, right? Baker Mayfield and Rosen and Allen and Darnold, which by the way, I think it's ridiculous that they're not even giving Teddy Bridgewater like a look. It's all about
or even
Darnold.
Josh McCown.
Right. I mean,
Josh McCown was a serviceable guy last year.
100%. Yeah. It's just beyond me. But I mean, that's the JETS Jets for you.
Right. Right.
So when it comes to rookies, right? I think the first name that comes to mind for everybody is going to be Saquon Barkley.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's going to be the outlier of this rookie class. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see Darius Geis this year because of the ACL injury.
Right.
He was another guy that I had that, heck, he could have finished higher than Barkley depending on how he gets his game going early.
There's no doubt. I loved Geis, and when he went down was kind of I haven't done any drafts yet, so it didn't hurt me, but in a way I think nobody was talking about Geis like he should have been talked about. Everybody wanted to talk about Barkley, but everybody forgot about Geis.
Yeah, a little bit. ADP before he got the injury had him going in the 4th, 5th round.
So when talking about rookies, and we touched on 2 of them, I mean, you have other guys that are going to get tons of reps. You're talking about Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones. I think even Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, although Nick Chubb has just...
Don't forget about Royce Freeman over in Denver.
Royce Freeman is going to be the starter.
Absolutely. Over Devontae Booker all day.
Well, and once CJ Anderson's out... Look, I love, and it kind of goes to some of my value late, right? And that's why I said top end running backs, right? You want to take them, but at the same time, there's so much value for me, at least, when it comes to later on. Royce Freeman is a guy that I think can have a CJ Anderson type of year, and nobody is talking about him at all. So the biggest thing with Royce Freeman is the O-line is going to be suspect. So I don't know his effectiveness until about week 4, right? Week 4, I think we'll kind of know how often is he going to touch the ball, how often he's going to get the opportunities, and as you said, he will 100% be the starter.
I think you see him become the starter earlier. I think Devontae Booker is a change of pace back at best. He catches passes out of the backfield. He's got decent yards per carry when the game flow is good. But Freeman's going to be a guy that, obviously they took the risk on him by drafting him early.
Right.
They want him to be the starter.
Right.
So, in theory, you take a guy that early, he's going to be the starter no matter what. Yeah. I think he could have a great year in Denver. They have a great passing attack. Yet, it remains to be seen what Case Keenum does in Denver.
I think he's going to be effective. I mean, you're talking about
Emmanuel Sanders. You have Sanders, Thomas.
Yeah. I mean,
Cortland Sutton, another rookie that we need to talk about.
I love Cortland Sutton. I love Cortland Sutton. I think especially when you have 2 guys, when you go back to even Peyton Manning, you're talking about 2 guys that were just unstoppable. Unstoppable. Yeah. Now you're going to put Cortland Sutton in the slot. Like
Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders were both wide receiver 1 numbers.
Yes.
Here just a few seasons ago.
So you put Emmanuel inside in the slot, or you can put Cortland Sutton in the slot. I don't think he cares. But if you put a guy like Cortland Sutton on the outside, especially in the red zone, which I know Demaryius takes a ton of reps in the red zone, but I think Courtland Sutton is the guy that can go up and get it, and he catches everything.
Yes. Oh, he's got great hands. He's got great hands.
So speaking of wide receivers, I like DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, Carolina, excellent choice. Funchess is not a number one. They drafted him to be a number one guy. No Kelvin Benjamin no more. Funchess did what he could, but they draft DJ Moore to give you that number one guy that they're looking for. He's going to get the targets. Greg Olsen, yes, he's back, but you got to spread that ball around. You got McCaffrey, you got Olsen, you got Funchess, you got DJ Moore. I don't see too much outside of that. No. You do got Curtis Samuel coming back, but you're right. Exactly. It's Curtis Samuel.
Right.
He'll be there. Get you 30 receptions, 40 receptions, maybe.
Now, I want to go to your team, and you know who I'm going to talk about.
I have a feeling.
One of my favorite players last season in college football, almost one of my favorite, it was probably my favorite combo besides Lamar Jackson to Jalen Smith, was James Washington.
Mason Rudolph,
Oklahoma State Cowboys. They connected for 1 billion yards and 1 billion touchdowns, and James Washington is a great, and I mean, I would put him in the top 15 or 20 already in the NFL, great route runners.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
He's a great route runner.
Good, spectacular catch. He can go up and get it.
You got it. And I think Martavius Bryant gone.
Right.
You
need that role filled.
Bingo.
There he is. You plug him right in, and it's 3rd and 19, and Ben just looks to the sidelines, and he just gives him that little wink, and boom, you got a 75-yard touchdown.
Let's throw it to 13. Yeah, I mean, like, James Washington is a guy that I think can fit this spot play, but also develop into Smith-Schuster kind of target number-wise as far as the season progresses on. Mm-hmm. The more reps that Washington gets, the more Pittsburgh is going to see that this guy's real. This guy's the real deal. So I love James Washington.
You win best wide receiver in football for a reason, I think.
Right.
You know, he was electric in last year's season. Oklahoma State, him and Rudolph were connecting on all kinds of big plays.
Right.
And that's what Pittsburgh is looking for.
Exactly.
Martavis Bryant, he was doing really good, but the maturity just wasn't there. And then when he came back, he was showed up by the rook.
Right.
And taking nothing away from Juju Smith-Schuster. He's fabulous. He's great. He's going to be a next great if he keeps going the way he is. I think that, adding this piece is going to make our offense just as dynamic as it was, if not better.
You ask everybody on the Cowboys team, James Washington was a family guy.
Right.
He's a team guy. He will do anything and everything to be successful. And I think that's a guy that can come in and everybody has trust in this guy, not only with his hands, but as far as whatever the team needs.
Well, and that's something that you really need in Pittsburgh because there's a lot of locker room distractions last year.
No way. Really?
Come on. Ben plays the Jaguars, throws 5 picks, and he's talking about retirement.
Right.
You got all these things. Ben's calling this out and that out, and you got other people posting on social media. And that's one thing I think players need to keep their opinions off social media. It's a game. You need to play the game. You need to hold yourself accountable when things happen.
To touch on a few more that I know we've talked about that, like on a personal level that we like. I like Christian Kirk, Arizona.
Christian Kirk, I think he can work himself, into that number 2 role.
Does Rosen play? Yeah, I don't want to move towards quarterbacks, but at what point? Okay, so if you look at their schedule, he has to play before the bye because after the bye, you're talking about games in which he's just going to get, he's going to spend more time on the ground than he is going to be standing up.
Well, Arizona. That's because of Arizona's line. Right. That's.
Well,
I'm kind of shying away from David Johnson a little bit this year because there's a question mark at quarterback. You have Sam Bradford. Will he stay healthy? That's the
Right.
question anywhere he is.
Right.
But if he does get hurt, is Josh Rosen going to come in and be that guy that they waste? They took the 10th overall pick with.
Right.
He says there's 3 mistakes behind him in the draft.
Right.
Will he live up to that?
He talked some big shit, and he even did the same thing at UCLA and did nothing there. Nothing.
Right.
I mean, so it's like, sure, you put up numbers, but would that equal wins? No. Sure didn't.
No. I think what UCLA had 5-6 wins last year.
Yeah. I mean, trash, just hot garbage.
Right.
So I'm not a Rosen fan, although I love Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is just a guy that goes out there and balls out. He just balls out. So he needs to get some reps and stuff, but I like Christian Kirk, especially in keeper leagues or something, if you want to get him way, way, way deep.
Well, who does Arizona have other than Larry Fitzgerald? They have J.J. Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, hard pass.
Right.
I mean, no thanks.
Right.
So I will take a flyer on Christian Kirk taking over J.J. Nelson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think as far you can get him off the wire.
Right.
Christian Kirk's going to be a guy that comes off the wire. I'm not using any draft picks on Christian Kirk. You don't even need to use the 16th round draft pick on Christian Kirk.
Where do you take Michael Gallup?
Michael Gallup. I've seen him going a lot, 14th, 15th round. He's a dart throw for me. A lot like every other Dallas receiver.
Anthony Miller? What about Anthony Miller?
Ooh, rookie. Chicago looks pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, can you buy into
you got Bellamy ahead of him? You have Allen Robinson ahead of him.
But I mean, do you buy into the Trubinsky train? I
think Trubisky can actually be a successful quarterback with the system he has. He got a good running back. If anything, Chicago's going to run the ball. You have Allen Robinson. I think Anthony Miller can find a groove later on in the season as the chemistry builds. Another one of those guys, especially with a lot of these young players, but he has looked really good early. So I would not be surprised if there's a breakout or a sudden surge in the beginning just on confidence.
Sure. Now, just a couple of other guys that I had written down here. I like DJ Clark at LSU. Mm-hmm. Traquan Smith, UCF. I mean, he just balled out last year.
Right.
Kiki Coty, he's now with Houston. Another guy that can stretch the field. I know you have Will Fuller, but I think he can get some playing time. And then one of my favorite players last season was Dante Pettis, right, at Washington.
Right, yeah.
And now he's with San Francisco. Garoppolo, maybe he gets fit in there. If perhaps, he's a reliable guy. And again, maybe not a guy that you draft, but a guy that should be on your radar if perhaps Garoppolo plays at a high level. So those are wide receiver wise. I know we mentioned a couple of quarterbacks. I don't think it needs to go into great detail. Darnold is going to start. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but whatever. Baker Mayfield, I mean, we can talk about this for a second, but I think Tyrod Taylor starts, and I think he plays until he doesn't want to play anymore.
At least this season. I think the Browns are showcasing Taylor for an absolute fact. Baker's they're going to be their franchise guy when they're ready.
Yes, I agree.
If Tyrod gets hurt this year, you'll see Baker Mayfield. But they want to keep him out all season, no matter what, unless there's circumstance that he has to come into the game.
Same story for Lamar Jackson.
Sure.
Flacco's going to play until he gets hurt or just has an atrocious 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're going to stick him in there just to see what he's got.
Yeah, I absolutely see that. I mean, when you see a quarterback like Eli Manning gets benched for a game last year, I don't think anyone's safe.
Right.
Right.
And
you've seen where that coach went after that.
Right.
But
and we touched on Rosen. I think it's kind of up in the air whether he starts or when he starts. And then Josh Allen, I'm not a fan. I think Buffalo wide receivers hurt because of their entire situation. So I'm not a big fan of Josh Allen either. And now let's move to value guys, right? You were mentioning 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th round. What kind of guys are you looking for? What kind of guys do you have in mind when it comes to those rounds?
Well, a couple guys that I've seen. James White, New England running back, a guy that's been around there for years, always been part of their passing attack. Great running back. I think he is a solid choice in the back end rounds. I would say Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee's another good guy. They paid him for a reason. They moved on from Allen Robinson for a reason. I do see him probably being the number one option in Jacksonville. 16th round Flyers, Keelan Cole or D.D. Westbrook. Who's going to be that number 2 option in Jacksonville? Last year, you saw Blake Bortles, week 12 to week 16, average QB number 2. So that's, they're going to be spreading the ball around. They have that workhorse in the backfield. There's things that's going to happen. A couple rounds up, I think someone who's going to have a decent year this year, actually, I think he's going to do more than decent. I think he's going to do well. That's Sterling Shepard from New York Giants. Seeing him go 10th, 11th round.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Wide receiver 4 or 5, maybe even 6, depending on how you drafted before that. I see him possibly getting upwards of 170, 180 fantasy football points this year. I do. I see it happening. The targets are going to be there. They're going to want to spread that ball around. They're going to want to take pressure off of Barkley, which Barkley's going to open up the passing game. They haven't had a running back in New York since...
Forever.
What was the last guy? I think
Tiki Barber.
Tiki Barber. Yeah. I'm just thinking 1,000-yard rusher. Maybe. Oh man, big guy. Jennings. No. No. Oh man, that's a big guy.
John Blank.
Yeah, me too. Right now. So that's how long it's been.
Right. I mean,
you know what I mean?
It
That's
shows
how
you
long
something.
it's been.
Right.
So.
Just
having Barkley is going to open up a lot of things for that passing offense.
Just a couple of guys that I just had written down here as far as like just complete flyers. I had written down Tyrell Williams for the Chargers, a guy that I think Phillip Rivers has a great year this year, and perhaps Williams is a guy that kind of fits into a boomer bust kind of guy.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to DraftKings, maybe a guy that you take a flyer with against a bad pass defense, maybe a guy that can go for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Think of how many targets San Diego has lost just over the offseason.
Right.
No Hunter Henry.
Right.
No Antonio Gates.
Right.
Dontrell Emmons gone.
Right.
That's a lot of targets.
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere.
Keenan Allen can only do so much.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon can only do so much.
Yep.
I think between Tyrell Williams and Mike Williams even.
Yep.
They drafted him first round.
Right.
Why? Obviously he's got to step into that role.
Exactly.
6'2", 220. He's a big guy, stretch the field just as well as Tyrell Williams.
Geronimo Allison, Green Bay, I think has a chance to, just from the standpoint of, I don't know if Randall Cobb's going to play an entire season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Randall Cobb's been known for the last couple of seasons having injury problems.
And although Jimmy Graham is now with Green Bay, I just don't know how he fits. Or, it could be one of those things. He goes back to New Orleans, like his New Orleans days where he catches 80 or 90.
Not going to be New Orleans days with Jimmy Graham anymore. Maybe, he doesn't have the game speed to bring it back to New Orleans.
Maybe not.
But I'll tell you what, Aaron Rodgers loves his tight end. Ricardo Rodgers,
right.
Richard Rodgers, he's really...
Yep.
Who was he a couple years
ago?
And then you're throwing Hail Marys to him.
Right. No, I definitely agree. I just think Allison is a guy that, especially with a couple of injuries, no Jordy Nelson as well, I think this is a guy that can fit and have some success on a week-to-week basis. He's not a guy that you want to play, but perhaps in certain situations is a guy that you could take a flyer with, Geronimo Allison. Do you ever draft Des Bryant?
No.
No? Okay.
Solid no. He's a free agent. 16th round even no. I don't see it.
I know. I just always like, God, if he's just sitting there in 16th round, like, God, if he just signs with anybody.
Think about this. If he would have played in Cleveland, he's the number 3 option in Cleveland.
I would agree with that.
Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry. Josh Gordon comes back to form
And Jarvis Landry, you're talking about
that's a video game style receiver out there. With, he's so elusive. He's who I call a poor man's Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
I do. He can do it all. He can go downfield. Huge possession guy. Play it inside, play outside, and just really reminds me of the type of game I see from number 84 out in Pittsburgh.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I think he could be another 100 reception guy.
Yep.
Big touchdown numbers.
I think the success of the wide receivers in Cleveland could be far significantly better with Baker Mayfield as quarterback.
Well, that depends. Tyrod Taylor doesn't turn the ball over that much.
Correct, but he tends to run because, the reason why he doesn't turn the ball over is, I think, because he chooses to run rather than throw it. Baker Mayfield,
I agree to that.
Although Baker Mayfield is known to run as well at times, Baker Mayfield wants to sit there and just toss it all day. He wants to throw it 60 times.
Yeah.
And I think when you have guys like Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon, and then if you could add a Dez Bryant, come on.
I think it's a little early to just go ahead and say, this offense is going to be better with Baker, from a fantasy perspective, just because no matter what, you're not going to see him this year unless Tyrod gets hurt. We can't start thinking about that until down the road. Sure, if you're in a dynasty league, Baker Mayfield's sitting out there, maybe stash him.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
We're talking about a Cleveland quarterback here. The destruction of quarterbacks. Right.
Right.
Since 1999, it's just
Tim Couch.
Tim Couch.
Come on.
Kelly Holcomb.
Come on.
Derek Anderson, Jeff Garcia.
Right. We can just go on forever.
This goes on and on and on. Brady Quinn.
Oh,
Remember
please.
Brady Quinn?
God.
Oh, man.
Jesus. Notre Dame.
I feel bad for that
atrocious.
Brady Quinn jersey. And that's another story.
RIP. R.I.P.
Right.
So, Zach, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. It's been a whole lot of fun.
I'm really glad you guys had me today.
And to be honest, we're looking forward to the weeks ahead.
Sure.
And I know moving forward for everybody listening, week to week, we'll talk about DraftKings and the effect that some of these guys might have in DraftKings. I know in fantasy leagues, for the most part, it's just, once you draft your team, that's it. So in DraftKings, you can always have constantly different lineups, different players and stuff. So from a week-to-week basis, however often you come on the podcast, it's going to be interesting this entire year because I think there's a lot of options when it comes to value in the NFL, whether at running back, wide receiver, and I think quarterback. And I know you touched on this. I don't think you need to take a quarterback till round 10. So,
yeah, definitely. There's great value in quarterbacks in later rounds. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger,
right?
Jared Goff, if you want to take that flyer on him, isn't going to the 12th round.
I like Mahomes, Kansas City. I
13th
think,
round guy.
Phillip Rivers is going deep.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers going 10th round, 11th round.
There's a lot of value, and I think from a week-to-week basis, a lot of things can change, and hopefully we can pick super value guys to where, if not us, maybe one of our listeners can win the Millie Maker with some of your help and maybe a little bit of mine, which not going to be as much as yours, but yeah. So I'm really hoping that one of us can hit it big in fantasy football and really have a whole lot of success this season. I think it's going to be a fun season, and like I said, we really appreciate you being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you on the podcast moving forward. From everybody here in Louisville, Kentucky, here at On The Switch, I want you to go to our Twitter at OnTheSwitch1, drop us a follow. All of our iOS, Android, all the platforms, please go to us, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. Go over to iHeartRadio. We're brand new on there. Subscribe to us there. Again, from all of us, Zack included, here at On The Switch Show from Louisville, Kentucky, we appreciate you all and we love you all.